But I truly thought for the first time in my life, I worked so hard at something. I was so good at something. Everybody acknowledged that I was, that they couldn't fire me, that they wouldn't fire me. Even in trying to adjust to be at least more of what certain people wanted, they still fired me. Gotten some heads up. I mean, summer ago, Stephen A. sat with me, took me to lunch in Los Angeles. He told me, he said, you know, there's a particular executive that doesn't like you. Now, let me be honest. I had been hearing this for years, right? It had gotten to me so many times. And so having that dinner or that lunch with Stephen A. was just confirmation of it. He's like, you need to go set a meeting. But so many times. And this kid, you know, from the West Bank, is like so accepted in New Orleans now. Like, I wouldn't change that, you know, never. You know, like, all I ever wanted to do was be accepted, you know, and want it. So yeah, like that.
I wanted to tap back in because I also dropped a link in the description where you can watch the entire clip from the very beginning. It's from the Pivot podcast, where Ryan Clark, Channing Crowder, and Fred Taylor sat down to talk about everything that unfolded last Monday, the viral moment when Ryan Clark was reportedly dismissed from ESPN's NFL Live in real time. The clip exploded across social media because after the show went to a commercial break, Ryan never returned. At the same time, reports started circulating online claiming he had been let go. So viewers were watching it unfold live, wondering, wait, what's going on? That's what turned the moment into such a huge story. And a lot of people still don't fully understand why it gained so much attention. I've already covered this topic before, and I caught some backlash over my opinion about Ryan getting emotional during this episode. Let me make one thing clear. This is the Pivot's platform, not ESPN's. It's three accomplished men who built a successful show from the ground up. They're respected, they're successful, and they're clearly doing well. There's no debate about that. The issue I had with some of the comments I received is that I don't think everyone understood the full context of what I was saying. If it's only one or two people disagreeing, I'll just let it go. But one point I didn't fully address in my original video was Ryan bringing up Stephen A. Smith by name. When you publicly say that a powerful executive wasn't on your side, then explain how Stephen A. Smith had been looking out for you behind the scenes, you're bringing him directly into the conversation. I touched on it more during my live stream than I did in the edited video. While recording the original upload, I actually told myself this story is probably going to get a lot of attention, so I'm not going to go too hard. During the live stream, though, I was able to explain my thoughts more openly. Personally, I don't think Ryan should have shared that information publicly. By revealing that Stephen A. Smith had been advocating for him behind the scenes, you're exposing private conversations that probably didn't need to become public. Ryan explained that Stephen A. had consistently supported him. According to Ryan, when there were concerns about his role in the past, Stephen A. reached out and essentially told him, if anything changes, I've got a place for you on First Take on Thursdays and Fridays to talk football. In other words, he was letting him know there would still be opportunities available if things went left. Then those conversations become public. Stephen A. Smith is under contract, and he's already been very open about how he approaches his career. By his own description, he's a company man. He's repeatedly said his job is to help the company succeed and make money. I've never really heard someone describe themselves that way so openly, but that's how he sees it. Now, there are plenty of opinions Stephen A. has shared over the years on ESPN that I haven't agreed with. I've criticized him before, and I'll probably disagree with him again. But I'm also not going to ignore the fact that based on Ryan's own account, Stephen A. was trying to help him. That's why I don't think those behind-the-scenes conversations needed to be shared publicly. Now let's talk about the emotional moment, because that's where a lot of people misunderstood my point. Some people keep saying Ryan wasn't crying because he lost the job. Others say it wasn't about ESPN at all. But regardless of how you interpret it, that's how many viewers are going to see it, because the entire interview exists as a response to what happened at ESPN. The reason everyone tuned in was because of the reports surrounding his departure. During that discussion, the idea of being buck-broken was brought up, and Ryan talked about feeling like the situation was meant to send a message. He believed they wanted to make an example out of him, and he spoke openly about that. "I've been creating content full-time for 8 years. I've recorded hundreds of interviews, hundreds of live streams, thousands of live stream sessions, and thousands of videos. I've been consistently uploading since 2018. One thing every content creator understands is that once you hit the record button, you also have control over what eventually gets published. You decide what stays in the final edit, what gets removed, and what never sees the light of day. When you choose to leave a deeply emotional moment in the finished product, you're also making the decision to let the audience see that vulnerability. From my perspective, that's something I personally would have thought twice about before releasing." Ryan Clark spent 13 seasons in the NFL, then another 11 years building a successful broadcasting career at ESPN. That's an incredible resume. He's had an outstanding career, and it's obvious he's been blessed with opportunities that most people never receive. That doesn't mean the situation was handled fairly. If ESPN treated him poorly, then people have every right to criticize the company for it. Business can be ruthless, and sometimes organizations make decisions people strongly disagree with. But Ryan also acknowledged something important himself. ESPN is a private company. Employees don't make the final decisions. Executives do. It's their organization, their policies, and ultimately their call. Whether people agree with those decisions or not, that's how corporate business operates. Could there be individuals inside the company making poor decisions? Absolutely. But if leadership gives those people authority, then those decisions become company decisions. You can criticize them publicly, you can disagree with them, you can call them out in interviews and on podcasts, but the reality is that the company still has the power to end your employment. From my perspective, that's why I personally wouldn't have wanted to give them the satisfaction of seeing me emotionally broken in such a public way. That's simply how I look at it. Was there already a plan to move on from Ryan? Maybe, it's certainly possible, but let's also acknowledge another reality of this business. Television ultimately comes down to ratings, revenue, and value. You might be one of the smartest analysts in sports. You might even be the best at what you do. But if the company decides you're replaceable or believes someone else can generate stronger ratings, they still have the ability to make that decision. That's just the business side of sports media. And to be clear, none of this is me saying Ryan Clark wasn't valuable or wasn't performing well. That's not the point I'm making at all. I'm not saying you weren't productive. I'm not saying you earned that position. But at some point, somebody inside that company may have decided the return isn't worth it anymore. We don't like some of the conversations he's having about black issues on this platform. We've already spoken to him about certain opinions, and there are people here who simply don't want him around. Once a company reaches that conclusion, they may decide you're no longer valuable enough to keep. That's the reality of corporate America. Everyone is replaceable. And this isn't meant to diminish Ryan Clark's talent. It's simply the truth. I'm going to tell you what I believe you need to hear, not just what feels good in the moment. Now, let me explain where I'm coming from. People keep focusing on me saying the crying came across as weak. Yes, that's still how I see it, and here's why. The Pivot podcast is already a successful platform. You already have your own media brand. If Ryan, Channing, Fred, and everyone behind the scenes can't look at this situation and say we're going to build something even bigger ourselves, then what are we really talking about? Ryan could have launched his own YouTube channel the very next day, put out an initial statement, then followed it up with, "Hey everyone, I just launched my own channel. Come subscribe." Whether it's called Ryan Clark Speaks or something else, he could probably attract hundreds of thousands of subscribers in a very short period of time. That's the kind of exposure you can't buy. From my perspective, this situation handed him an opportunity. If I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, y'all fired me? Fine, I'm already moving. I've got opportunities that money can't purchase. The entire world is talking about me because of the way this happened. That's priceless publicity. You can't walk into a marketing agency and pay them to recreate the amount of attention this story generated. Moments like this are rare.
On top of that, Ryan already has something most people don't have when they lose a job. He has a recognized name. People know who he is. He's built credibility over years in both the NFL and sports media. He's not someone starting from zero, trying to convince people to give him a chance. He also has an audience. There are people who follow his work, support him, and genuinely want to hear what he has to say. Most creators spend years trying to build that kind of following. Ryan has already done it. Then there's the Pivot podcast. He already owns a platform where he can speak to his audience without asking ESPN or anyone else for permission. Nobody has to approve his opinions before they reach the public. Reports have also suggested that he earned around $2 million a year working in sports media. So we're not talking about someone who suddenly lost their only source of income with no backup plan. He's built a successful career, earned significant money, and created opportunities for himself over many years. That also means he has resources. And more importantly, he has something that almost nobody else who loses a job has. That's what I'm really talking about. Ryan has relationships with executives, athletes, entertainers, business owners, and influential people across multiple industries. Through 13 years in the NFL and more than a decade in sports broadcasting, he's built connections that most people could only dream of having. Those relationships don't disappear just because one company lets you go.